Thank you. There's an awful lot in there. I'm probably going to steer clear of talking too much about what the council might do or say. You're going to hear from them later. You're going to have some representations from them, and that starts to go towards the delivery discussions you're going to have in your next weekend. So perhaps I'll try and focus on some of the things that relate to how you build momentum for these projects to happen and what you do to get moving. The first thing to say, I think it's really helpful not to think about this as a plan or a project or a thing that we've all got to do. This is a process. It's an ongoing process. It doesn't have a start and it doesn't have an end. Town centres, urban environments constantly evolve, change. Plans are made, plans are reviewed, plans are changed. And we have to work within that. And that's a positive thing because it allows us to achieve some of that flexibility and adaptability as we go. The important thing that is underlying that is that good places generally have the same features. And that doesn't change from one decade to the next. It doesn't change from one political party to the next. People know what they like. They know a good environment when they see one. They know where they want to be and how they want to feel in a space. They want nice streets. They want nice spaces. They want green places. They want safe places. They want connected places, accessible places. Those principles, those basic principles of good urban environments persist whatever we're doing, whatever the economic cycle. And if you hang on to that, you hang on to what really matters to when you're out and about enjoying our town centres. It was raised over there about having quick wins, and that's something that's really important when you're starting to fire a new stage in this process up, which is where you're all at the moment. And I think that's something you're going to work on, actually looking at all of these great ideas you've got, looking at all these opportunities that you've got, but deciding what are the things that most matter, what are the priorities, what are the things that we can take control of and do something about. I mentioned it yesterday. You can't do everything. You can't do everything quickly, but what you can do is decide what will really make a difference. And, you know, it was mentioned on the table over there about the Hippodrome in Birmingham, in Dudley. You know, it's one of those iconic kind of things that symbolises that we haven't got where we want to be. Cavendish House is just the same. Cavendish House was on my badge 20 years ago. Once something happens to Cavendish House, I'll have done something worthwhile in Dudley. It's still sitting there. Let's hope that the plans that are now afoot actually come to pass. But you know, if that's the thing that symbolises to the people of Dudley that we've made some progress, let's tackle that first. Now that goes back also to something else I said yesterday, and that's about the hand stitching and the curating of what we want to do. Big plans are all well and good. You've seen the things that we drew, big grand master plans. But actually, when it comes to implementing, it's about coming right down to the detailed level, working your way along every street, looking at every building, looking at every occupier, looking at what's going on the ground floor, what's going on above, what state the building is, what the potential might be, how you might look at a group of buildings together in a different way. That is fine-grained, careful, meticulous work that means you can really start to explore detailed projects and decide where you're going to invest your money, where you're going to take time first to make a difference. And that's the work that comes on the back of all the good planning work that the council is doing and has put in place in the plans that have evolved since the time I was talking about. You know, both Brierley Hill and Dudley have got area action plans adopted by the council through very difficult times in the economic cycle. Yes, good things have happened, and yes, there's potential for a lot more to happen, but it's got to happen at that level. And that comes back also to what I was talking about yesterday, about what goes on in those buildings and how we make interesting, quirky, exciting things happen. Around that, there has to be good commercial framework for that, and that means looking at viability and deliverability and working with your investors and working with your developers and your shopkeepers and your businesses. And you do that, you know, you do that almost building by building to make these things actually happen. Adaptability, flexibility, you're dead right. It's really important, and it means you can move with the times, but it's possible to create environments that are flexible. A huge, great shopping centre is not a very flexible building form. Streets, buildings, perimeter block development where, you know, frontages face onto streets, you can adapt to all the changes that come along over time. Town centres have been evolving in that way for hundreds of years. Perception. the thing about places being tainted is really, really important. But you can turn things around. You can change perceptions of places. This is Dudley, this is Brierley Hill. They're quite small places. They've got character, they've got historic buildings, they've got history, they've got good things on which you can build. If they can change the perception of Liverpool and Birmingham and in the way that we have done over the last 2 decades, we can certainly do it in Dudley, we can certainly do it in Brierley Hill. Who would have ever thought to go and live in the middle of Birmingham 25 years ago? It happens, it can change, and that's about leadership. It's about the communities, it's about confidence, it's about all these kind of things that build a different kind of momentum. Don't be fearful that you can't change what's currently holding back investment and confidence in your environments. What else shall I pick out of that lot? There's some really interesting aspects in terms of existing buildings, existing built environment, degraded houses, huge great tower blocks of, that were offices in the 60s and have now been converted to residential or are standing empty. We simply probably have too much built space in our urban environments at the moment for all the kind of things that we want to happen in centres. Residential is only one important aspect of using some of that empty space. It's the thing that's probably driving quite a lot of regeneration at the moment. It may not be in 10 years' time. We may be in some places talking about, as I think someone said, taking away some of that built development, returning some of it to, community gardens, public spaces, orchards, all sorts of possibilities that are about space rather than about buildings. So I think, again, that's something for you to think about when you're looking at what sort of character of place and space that you want. Housing is a hugely complex aspect of that in terms of existing housing, and particularly where you've got large quantities of privately owned, and particularly privately owned landlord rented accommodation to deal with. I'm not going to dwell on that. I don't know whether actually the council might like to pick up on some of that when they come to speak a little bit later about the sort of policies and programmes that are in place here. It's not something that I'm particularly familiar with, but there are ways to start to tackle some of those issues, and they certainly need to be tackled in some of these locations. I will just say you've only got to look out of the window here to see some of the things that can be done when you really do target the priorities. That health and social care centre up on the hill there, looking down now on Merry Hill, the college building that was built alongside it, were major achievements in an area that was really very degraded and in need of investment. And that was done without, the drivers of retail and commercial development happening. And it's that kind of thing that really gives you hope that actually you can transform places through community investment, through community activities, and through that kind of regeneration. We just need to fill in the rest of the gaps.